Hello? Anyone there? Okay. I hope this is working. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. I don't know if anyone is there, but I can't see anyone, and Instagram is telling me to hold on, so I'm waiting. Should I start speaking? Someone. Hello. All right. So I better get going. Okay, so welcome to my live here at the Addictive Brain. I'm Isabel. Oh, hello. Yay, great. Okay, so I'll start by introducing myself and then speak about my experience as a science editor, writer, communicator, and the transition from academia to this new career. Hi, everyone. So my name is Isabel Torres. I'm Portuguese and I live in France with my 4 children. So my science career started actually my entire science career was in Cambridge in the UK. I started by doing a master's at the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom, working on cell polarity and development. And I decided to stay in the same lab, and I did a PhD in a different topic. So I started by working more in cell in development, and then I moved on to cell biology. So always trying to understand how cells become polarized. So basically how they get their shape with a top and a bottom, in the case of epithelial cells, for example, or in the embryo, how the embryo gets a head and a bottom on the other side. So that was my main question. Hi Teresa. After my PhD, I did a postdoc. So I had twins at the end of my PhD. And then I went straight into a postdoc in Cambridge at the Laboratory of Molecular Biology. And so if you can start asking questions if you want. And I worked also in cell biology, also in polarity, but looking at a different question. So looking at how vesicles and proteins move around in the cell and things like that. So I worked with a fruit fly most of my career. And in my postdoc, I also worked with mammalian tissue culture. Okay, so how did I transition to my current career? So I started having doubts during my PhD, more or less at the middle, towards my 3rd year, whether this was really what I wanted to do, research, even though I was, and I still am, very passionate about science. Yes, Teresa, I'm getting there. Thank you. During my postdoc, I started doing science communication. So I did a lot of, so I started getting involved in science communication during my postdoc voluntarily. So I just wanted to, really in the beginning I was just trying to try something else because I was starting to question whether or not I wanted to do research, and I didn't know what else I should do. And then when I started doing science outreach, I started working with children in schools, I immediately fell in love with it. And then I did a lot of things in my postdoc. I did a website, a resource website for families and kids on how to use microscopes. I organized a whole project with microscopes where we took microscopes to schools and did activities with the kids. I organized a science film festival with the British Science Association. I organized seminars for the public. I did a lot of different things, and that gave me a taste of what science communication is. So then this is when I made the decision during my postdoc that I wanted to move on and do something else. So then I moved to France because my now ex-husband, he's a researcher as well, and he got a position in France. He's French, group leader position. So I followed him, like many women do. And I also had my third baby at the time. So when I got to France, I had a newborn. Thank you. So I had a newborn, I had the twins, and it was all very quick, so I didn't have time to look for a job. So I arrived here, I didn't have a job. So my initial plan was to take a year off and just spend time with the kids and kind of figure out what I was going to do. And I was also a bit burned out from my postdoc because, you know, I had the twins. I was working on, I don't know, at some point I was working on 4 projects at the same time. I was doing the psychom, so I was very tired. And also I had another pregnancy. So I was planning to take a year off, but after 2 months I was bored. And this is when I started my science blog. So I had a blog that I haven't written for it for a long time. It was called Science in the Clouds. And I just started writing, and I really enjoyed it. And this was, you know, another form of science communication. So this was really the thing I enjoyed. And I also started, you know, sending articles off to magazines, online magazines, and I started publishing here and there. But it's quite hard to break into science writing. It's probably harder than academia. If this is something you're considering, it's very, very hard. Not impossible. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you should go for it. So you need patience, and I would suggest starting as early as possible. So even during the PhD, start writing for, I don't know, your university magazine and things like that. So then I started looking for jobs in science communication here in France, and I quickly realized there aren't any. So it's something that still hasn't come here, and there are people doing press releases and things like that, but there isn't, you know, institutes don't really have a person just for that. Hi Poland. And then I started the editing, and that was a bit by serendipity, to be honest, because so I was, well, I don't want to brag, but people said I was quite a good writer, and my friends and colleagues normally would send me papers to help them edit the papers or the project grants. Okay, I'll answer that soon. So people were asking me to edit their grants, and at some point someone, a colleague of a friend said, you know, I really want you, you have expertise, I would pay you. And I said, oh, that's great. And then, you know, I just started like that. You know, someone recommended me, and then that person recommended to the other person, and this is how I got into science editing. Yes, I can talk a bit about my new website. Yeah, that's how I started doing the editing, and I enjoy it. And it was also quite convenient for me at the time because, you know, now I have 4 small children, and I really needed the flexibility. You know, because I can choose my own hours, I can choose the amount of work I have. So this is really good for me now. I think in the long term, I might want to do something else, but it's very flexible, and I work from home, so that's pretty good. Yes, I think science communication as a job itself, I think is very recent. For sure, when I was doing my PhD, there was very few people doing just science communication as a job. You know, most people doing science outreach and science communication were researchers doing it on the side, or press officers. But now we start to see more and more institutes, you know, having someone devoted to do that. So someone asked me if the postdoc gave me additional skills. I think for the science editing, for sure. If you want to try a career in science editing, you don't need any formal training. This is something someone else asked me before. You don't really need formal training, but research experience is a plus. And also, experience with writing and publishing papers and writing grants. So, clients and editing companies where you could work for as a freelancer, they will look for research experience and, publishing experience. And normally so I work for myself, I'm self-employed, I work completely by myself, but you can work for a company, a science editing company. I mean, they contact me every now and then to ask if I want to work freelance. And normally they see your experience and then you have to do a test as well. So you have to do an editing test, and they just check, and I think they give you a paper and then they just check what you do with it. You have to edit it. But no, you don't need any formal training, and I think a postdoc is good to have extra experience, publishing and writing grants. But it's not completely necessary. If you have a PhD, it's already pretty good. What are the other questions? I forgot. So yeah, that's how I started doing the science editing. I should explain the sort of science editing I do, because there's different types of science editors. And I wrote a post about this a while ago, actually. So there's the science editors that work for journals. This stopped. I don't know if I'm still live. If it crashed. Okay. I'll carry on. Oh yeah. So there's science editors that work in journals, and these science editors, they oversee the peer review process. So they select papers that go to peer review, then they select the reviewers, and they make the final decision. Then there's the science editors that work in magazines. Oh, thank you. I can see now as well. There's the editors that work for magazines like the New Scientist, National Geographic, and they commission and they edit articles from journalists, so it's a different type. And then there's the science editors like me. And hi, Teres. So what I do is, so my clients are mostly people in academia, some doctors as well. They send me papers or projects, and I have to, polish the English. And I also act like a reviewer. So if I see something that it's a bit not very solid, or I think it's not very clear, I may suggest experiments, or I may suggest really big changes in the paper, or especially in grants. So in grants, I really give a lot of input. I don't know if all the editors are like me, but I'm very thorough. And I give, really scientific input, especially if it's in my area. So I can restructure completely an entire section or an entire grant. I make suggestions, and really, I work side by side with the client more than just reviewing the English. And this is why I mostly enjoy reviewing grants. It's more interesting from that point of view. What else? Do you have any questions? So for how do I find clients? Good questions. So as I said in the beginning, most of the clients is by word of mouth. So, I started with one, and, that person then is happy with my work and recommends me to someone. And then, and so forth. So most of the clients come like this, and I've spoken to other people who have their own businesses, and even in other fields, that's usually how you get your first customers. I got a few customers through my website, but it takes a while for the website to go higher in the Google searches. So now I start to have people approaching me from the website. Hi, Luis. But most of my clients are by word of mouth. But I need to add as well that because I have kids and I need the flexibility, I haven't really tried to find new customers because I don't want a bigger load of amount of work at the moment. Um, so I never try to advertise and things like that. There's also some editing, like editing associations where you can ask to put your name there and you can be searched there. There's PeerWith, and it's a website with just editors, and you can put your profile there, and then people go and look for you there. I got a few job requests from them as well. So there's several ways, and it does take a while to get enough clients to have a decent salary, I would say. It takes a while. Like any business, it takes a while to be established. But you can also work for other companies. That's what I was saying. Science editing companies, the big ones, they are always looking for freelancers, but it doesn't pay as well. That's a drawback. But you can always get jobs from them. So for the science illustration people, this is what I would recommend. I mean, I haven't really tried very actively to find clients, but you can send targeted emails to research institutions. There must be websites that like resource websites where you can advertise. There's freelancer websites as well with all types of freelancing, and then they have topics, and you can advertise there. You can go give talks in the institutions. I've seen science editors do that. They go to the institutes, research institutes, and they give a talk, explaining what they do and try to get customers like that. The hardest thing about this job is not specific for this job, I would say. I think any self-employed person or freelancer, the worst thing is that you don't have a fixed paycheck by the end of the month. So some months you have a nice amount of money, others not. So it can get stressful. Now I'm at the point where I get kind of a stable inflow of work, but sometimes I can go a week without any work and I just start to panic. Then, there's always something else coming, but, it can be stressful to deal with this irregular amount of work and, and not have that certainty that you'll have a fixed paycheck at the end of the month. I think that is the worst. And also, I work at home, so like any work, when you work from home, it's a bit lonely sometimes, but I'm quite used to it by now, and I really enjoy the flexibility, so that's okay. Things I like, not that I said the negative things, I like that I'm always learning something new. I mean, it's a bit like science. I get papers and projects from many different fields, so I'm learning things that I wasn't learning when I was a researcher, because it's very specific, and this is one of the things that I didn't like about being a researcher, that it's very specific. So I can edit things from ecology, paleontology, cancer research, it's very varied, and that's really nice. Oh, thank you. And the other thing I really like, and I think it's important, is it's very gratifying to help people because I don't know, at least my clients, they're very nice. And after working in academia where, I think you will be able to relate, your work is not appreciated as much as you would wish. So I was used to that. So now, my clients are happy. They thank me. They're happy when their papers or grants are accepted, especially when it's a grant. They are really ecstatic, and they really thank me, and it makes me feel that I'm part of it first, and it's very gratifying. So I really enjoy that part of helping them. The other thing I think it's important to mention that, well, it's not completely true, but one of the things that makes me think maybe I won't do this my whole life is that there isn't much room for progression. So you're doing this yeah, and there's no much room for progression. So now I'm starting to expand. First, I'm doing the science communication on the side, and I'm expanding. I'm going to start doing trainings. So I'm going to do trainings, how to write project grants, how to write papers, and I have my first one booked, and I'm quite nervous. So I'm going to start getting into that, and I think that will be nice, and it will make me feel like I'm progressing in my career, and I think it will be nice. I have no idea. I'm not a science illustrator. I don't know what software. I use the Adobe Suite for my illustrations. Someone asked me about my website. Sorry, I thought it was one of my kids. Oh, for the science writing. So as a science writer, I'm just starting. I have quite a bit of experience, but I only published for like online magazines, smaller things. And now I got my first real contract as a freelancer, but it's a proper contract with PLOS, Public Library of Science, and I'm writing press releases for them. So I was really happy about that. How I got that, I missed that question. Oh, someone that wants to leave academia. So this job at PLOS, I got it with an ad. There was just an ad, and I applied, and I got it. But I'm working as a freelancer, so I'm not really attached to them. Meaning I'm running on yearly contracts. But I really enjoy that, writing press releases. It's really nice. So yeah, how you break into science writing? There's many ways. You have your own blog, or you have to pitch to magazines and newspapers. You pitch an idea. There's some resources. If you want, just contact me and I'll give you some resources that explain all this. There's a very good website with all the tips on how to break into science writing, which is really good. The transition. So my transition from academia was very long and painful. It took me many years to decide, not to decide, to, take the leap. And I think for two reasons. One of the reasons is that, at least at the time, and I just wrote a post about this, there's this thing in academia that if you leave, you're a quitter. And that's how I felt, and I think back then, and maybe even now, when people think of leaving academia, it's like you're failing somehow. So that was one of the reasons I really wanted to be 100% sure. The other reason was that I always wanted to be a researcher. This is what I wanted, and it's very strange when you really want something your whole life, and then you realize when you have it that's not what's making you happy. So I spent a lot of time soul searching, and the other reason is that I didn't know what else to do. And I was afraid that I didn't have any skills to do anything else. And when I started realizing, that's not the case, is when I went to the career service of the University of Cambridge, which I really recommend if you're questioning and your institution has a career service, go there. They're usually very good. And when I got there, I realized there were so many things you can do with a PhD. I had no idea there were all these professions. So that really gave me the confidence, there will be something else that I enjoy. Yes, I mean, I don't know how it is now, but at least this wasn't that long ago. But when I was even embarrassed of talking to people that I was thinking of leaving, doing something else. So it was that was quite hard. So then when I realized there was other things that I could do, then I just needed to figure out what. And then during my postdoc, I started doing science communication, and I loved it. And there's many things you can do within science communication. You can write, you can organize events, you can work at the museum. It's very vast. So, but I really enjoyed, explaining science to the public part, everything about it. So then I knew, there's something I enjoy. And then I started editing, which complements a little bit. And at the moment, it brings me income as well until the science communication takes off. So one thing I should say is that I never regretted leaving academia. And I remember when I went to this career service and I went to a workshop or something, and I remember the person who was giving the talk, she said, I've had, I don't know, thousands of people coming through me. So she was an advisor, career advisor. All of them left academia and only one went back. Everyone else was happier. So, it doesn't mean that doing research isn't good. What I mean is that there's many other things in life that can make you happy and, still connected to science. I wanted to still be in touch with science for sure. So, and I am. So I got a feedback too. Yes, go to the career counseling. They're very helpful. They really help. I mean, at least at my university, and there's still many things I'm sure that you could do that I'm still not aware. And you can meet other people in the same situation, so you realize, oh, it's not just me. I'm not alone. So you can get support. It was really good for me. It was really good. If you want to do research, you can still do research outside of the academia, environment. You can go. I know people. Actually, most of my friends left academia. I know people went to work in industry and they're pretty happy there. They're still doing research. I don't know. I know people doing so many different things, and all of them are still, or most of them, still in touch with science. You can also retrain. You can do a master's or a training in something else more specific. I have a friend, he just did, I don't really understand exactly what it is, but it's to work in hospitals, to advise doctors, and he did a 1-year master's, and now he's going to do that, which is really cool, I think. There's so many things. You really just need to get out there and look and talk to people like me, other people. Yeah. So about the website, someone asked me. I take the opportunity. So I will have actually the day of the launch, which is Friday, I will have a live just to talk about the website and Pretty Smart Science. But basically, the idea is that it's not just a blog. More in the medium long term, I really would like it to become more of a resource with, science and articles where people can go and check for information. I don't want to give too many details, but it's going to cover 3 main points, things that I'm very passionate about, which are science in general. So, things like I've been posting on Instagram, articles like that. Then women in science. I'm going to have one of the topics of the website is women in science, and I'm planning to interview, I've done a few interviews, women in science and write biographies and things like that. And the other topic is more towards health, pregnancy and parenting, because I think people really need to be informed to make, everyday life decisions, especially health decisions, and things like people not vaccinating their kids and things like that. I haven't really touched this on my Instagram yet. I want to do it properly, but I really think this is going to be a main component of the website. I started my blog just for fun, to be honest, because I wanted to do science communication and I was at home with my baby, so I was a bit limited. And then this is how I discovered I enjoy writing, because I started my blog, I didn't know, and then I realized I love writing. is it a prerequisite to get a job? Which kind of job? In SciComm? Well, you can do a lot of things in SciComm now. You don't have to write. You can work at a museum. You can work in a research institution. There's many things you can do as a science communicator. I mean, it is good to be able to write because, you know, communicator. But writing is something that you don't learn in school. You just learn by practice. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm really, I've been for a long time wanting to do something about women in science and gender equality. So I'm really enjoying this bit that is just starting. So we'll see. Knowing what you know, what advice would you give to yourself as a young woman starting college? Oof. First, I'm still young. Thank you very much. I'm just kidding. Um, I would say be open-minded because I was completely 100% sure I would be a scientist, well, a researcher, and I did become one, and then I realized this was not what I wanted. I think this was my first big lesson in life that life doesn't always go as you plan, and that what you think will make you happy doesn't necessarily make you happy when you reach that point. I wrote about this on Instagram as well. So I would say to myself, stay open-minded and don't forget to live your life outside the lab, because at the beginning of my career, doing my master's and the beginning of my PhD, I was working all the time. And, you know, I was playing volleyball and then I stopped playing volleyball to focus on my PhD. I stopped kind of going out. And, you know, it was pointless because it didn't make work go any faster. I didn't get more results. I was just tired. So towards the second year of my PhD, I stopped working weekends completely, and I only worked until 6, 7 top, and I was as productive, to be honest. Actually, my most productive time was during my postdoc, and this is when I had twins, baby twins. I was so productive because, you know, you're just more experienced, and I had to leave at 5:30 to go pick them up from the nursery. And, you know, when you know you have to go, you go. You don't stop, you know, half an hour for a break. You just work. And so, yeah, there's no point working 10 hours a day and weekends. That's what I would have told myself when I was younger. Thank you, Luis. Thank you for your support. Yeah, and the advice I would give now to any PhD student, which is always what I tell any PhD student when I meet them, is, you know, don't just do research, try to do other things, which doesn't mean you should, oh no, I have to do Instagram, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, go out with your friends, have hobbies, read, whatever you like to do. You know, don't obsess about publishing. Life is full of surprises, and, you know, just enjoy your PhD. There's no point doing this if you're not enjoying it, I think, because it doesn't get better. I'm sorry, but postdoc is just a PhD with another title, you know, and it just carries on. This is academia, so you have to enjoy it and find a balance somehow. That's what I would say. It's hard, but having a PhD is amazing. And if people ask me, should I finish, should I drop out, you know, unless you're completely depressed and you hate it, I would finish, because it really opens many doors. I always tell this, you know, having a PhD in your CV really makes a huge difference. And there are studies that show that people with PhDs are more employable, and you learn skills that I don't think you learn in many careers, you know. To start a job, to look for a job, I mean, depends what you want to do. So someone asked me, any advice how to start searching for a job after PhD? First, you have to know what you want to do, and you have to start looking before you finish. So, for example, as soon as I realized I wanted to do science communication, I started before, but you have to start working towards that end. if you know exactly what you want to do. If you don't know, there's no point stressing about it. Just take your time. But it's good to think ahead, unless you want to have a break. If you want to work in industry and things like that, you can just, I think those depends on where you live. Those type of jobs, usually it's okay. You find them quickly. But it's always good to think ahead. But it's hard because at the end of the PhD, you're writing. Yeah, I know it's hard. You're concentrated doing that. I don't know. I just in academia, you always have to think ahead. You have your grant, and then you have to halfway through one grant, you have to be preparing for the next one. So I'm used to that. Thank you. I always wanted to do a PhD as well. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed my PhD. I enjoyed my postdoc. Even though when I started my postdoc, I was already unsure that I wanted to continue doing research. I did enjoy it, and it was only at the end that I was just wanting to move on, but I did enjoy it. And actually, once I made the decision to leave, I started enjoying it more because, it's like I knew these are going to be my last years doing research as a scientist, so I really started appreciating the whole experience, and because there are things that is really nice, and there are things I miss now, like I miss the whole environment, walking in the corridor, running into someone and having a discussion about science, just like that, or while you're having tea. I really miss that sort of atmosphere. So I'm going to try now to be more in touch with science. Well, now I am more in touch with scientists on Instagram, and I'm going to start trying to do that with my interviews for the Women in Science. I'm already doing that because I like this discussing science like that. It's really nice. So I mentioned this before, Tales of Feb. Someone is asking me what are my thoughts on getting a postdoc. It depends on what you want to do next. I think for many things you don't need a postdoc. For the science editing, it sure helps because what counts more is having research experience, but it's not necessary. I mean, a PhD, it's good. But for your own confidence as a science editor, it is good to have had edited grants and papers, so you feel you know what you're doing. So it's the more experience you have doing those things, the more comfortable you'll be, because there's no training for science editing. If you're hesitating whether you should do a postdoc, I think a lot of people do postdocs because they don't know what to do. And that's okay. I think that's the case for a lot of people. I think for me it was a little bit, I wasn't sure yet. So for me it was the time to make that decision. And I don't regret doing my postdoc. It was very good. I was in a very good institute. So I met, I was working side by side with Nobel Prize winners. So I met a lot of interesting people who I'm still in touch with, and who, it's like networking. I hated networking. I'm still not very good at it. And I only realized at the end of my career that it's crucial. Yeah, so I met a lot of people who I am still in touch with and who are now important for my science communication projects. So for me it was good because I still enjoyed the lab, but I know some people reach a point where they just can't stand it. In that case, you shouldn't do it. I mean, there's no point. You'll just be miserable. How long was it? My postdoc was quite short. It was about 3.5 years, and I managed to publish, so that was good. And then I got pregnant, so I would have to stop anyway. I had my baby right at the end. So, and that's enough. My PhD was very long, and it was too long, and I was completely bored of it. And this was one of the reasons that, I don't know, what is your personal reason? But when I left academia, everyone was asking, oh, why? As if it was a drama. And I think one of the things was really that I was bored because for me it's very specific. And I think this depends on the field. I know some fields now with science communication, having met people from other fields like, I don't know, psychology, ecology, whatever. There's some fields where it's very varied the type of work you do and you have many projects, but I was doing cell biology and molecular biology, and it's very specific, and a project can take 5 years, and I just lost motivation after a while working all the time on the same thing. I just at the end of my postdoc and my PhD as well, I was going to seminars on things that had nothing to do with what I was doing. It was ridiculous. I was going to all the seminars in my institute about other things because I just really wanted to learn new things. I felt I was kind of stuck. So this was one of the main reasons I was a bit disappointed with research. And now I have that in science communication. I'm always doing new things and learning new things. So that's good. My passion is cell biology. It's my crush. Someone said molecular biology, my fave. But I did a lot of molecular biology, so. What else can I do? Yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to run out of topics. So yeah, so I think what I'm doing now for now, it's okay. So I think another important thing about the science editing is that it has to do as well with the being self-employed thing, is that to earn more money, you have to work more. It's not like a normal job where you have a salary. You can work more or less and you always earn the same. So if I want to make more money, I have to work more hours. And if I go on holidays, I don't get paid. So that means there is only so much I can earn. I mean, if you're obviously salary is something you have to consider if you're thinking of changing career, because there's only so much I can earn because there's only so many hours I can work. So what I'm doing now is I'm diversifying a bit, and I'm going to start doing trainings. Not a lot because I don't have time at the moment. And that's interesting. It's something different, and it's something that will, I think, raise a bit the income, I hope. So this is one thing you can do, but I think to get there, I think you need quite a bit of experience. Yeah, so that's a thing to consider. But this has to do with being self-employed, which is quite different. I think coming from academia, it was a bit of a shock to change to a system like that, but now I'm used to it. It's okay. What is the salary? That varies a lot. I really can't tell what other people earn. So I'm not going to tell you my salary, obviously, but I'm not even working completely full time because I have the kids and I want to do the SciComm. So I have my my clients, and I only take new clients when they really look for me, or someone recommended me, someone knows me. I really don't want to increase my workload because I just can't. It's too much. I'm not a superwoman, so I'm not making as much as I could. But you can have a normal, decent salary. I think also depends on where you live and for whom you work for, or if you work on your own. But people live as science editors, so it's okay. You won't be rich. Let's just say that. You won't get rich, but you can live comfortably. But it takes time to get enough customers. If you're working for yourself, it takes time to get enough customers to get there. It really takes time. But that's with any business. I don't know if I should, it's okay. Anyone has any more questions? And please come to check my website on Friday. That will be good. And I'm going to announce my live. And on that live, I'm going to talk about just the science communication bits and the website and my vision, how I started Pretty Smart Science, which is another story. You can ask, someone asked me, you can't ask for more at these fixed rates. Now, you set your own rate. Well, if you work for someone else as a freelancer, so the science editor, they're science editing companies, which are quite big, the ones that hire, and they hire as freelancers. And I never worked for them, and because I heard they pay really bad. But I guess when you start having experience, you can start asking for more. I'm finally reaching that stage. I work for myself, so I set my own rates. And you know, my rates vary a lot according to the job, the clients. You know, for all the clients that have been with me for a few years, well, that I haven't been working on this for that long, but I will charge the same rate I charge in the beginning. For newer clients, I might charge more, or you know, it depends. It really depends. Sometimes I do promotions. I set my own rates. And I have some people asking me for my rates, and then they don't come back. So I'm pretty sure some people charge less. And actually, I had some of my clients have had other editors before me, and they said they were pretty crap. So I think these big companies don't always have good quality control. So I prefer to work by myself, and I want to set my own schedules and all that. So. Please save this live. Yes, how do I do that? I will. Is there any other possibility to have a job different from science editor? Yes, there's lots of possibilities. Yeah, we talked about this before. Go to your counseling career counseling service in your institution, or just Google it. Maybe I'll write about this sometime. There's many things you can do with a research PhD. Okay, I think I'm going to stop. Thank you very much, everyone. This was fun. And if you have any more questions, yeah, just contact me on Instagram. And I hope to see you on my live on Friday. And please check my website, prettysmartscience.com. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. I'm going to stop now. And